Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. We're extra late today. We are. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's too loud. I thought I would be late, but not this late. I'm sorry. Well, I think I just... No, he's not. It's 6:40, guys. All right. Well, let's go and look at the chart, shall we? So we had a very eventful week last week in the treasuries, but in the end they ended up down from the Federal Reserve meeting, and we are kind of opening the week at the lower end of last week's range. It looks pretty quiet. It is Monday, but that's kind of where we're going. The S&P 500 is looking okay. They're not above 58,000. But, I mean, look, that's pretty good. We've recovered this downside pretty well. Oil on the upturn again, almost above $71. So a really good recovery happening over there. Gold and silver still looking amazing. Now, actually, silver came back a little bit. Interesting divergence between gold and silver there. Copper down a little bit this morning. 6J, the Japanese yen still kind of on the downside. It's rearing its head a little bit there, though, but I'm a little concerned that that's just kind of like a pullback before going lower. The dollar, though, still above 100.5. So, and then Bitcoin able to maintain that 60,000 level over the weekend. I mean, man, they struggled with that for so long. So, of course, there have been some times like over here, right? It went over 60. And it, it came crashing. That could happen here again. We gotta be careful. So that's where we're at. I didn't see anything too major. I believe we do have PMIs today, do we not? Let me see here. Yes, US S&P Services PMI flash. And then we've got 3 and 6 months bills, Goolsby, Kashkari. Goolsby will be at 8:15, so that's probably one to watch. So the PMIs in Europe were pretty weak, so watch out for those. That's the most significant thing that we have this morning. Watching a live stream of land in Lebanon. It's been heating up over there in Lebanon, although it kind of seems to me that Israel doesn't really want to do like an all-in, because they would have done that already. They're just kind of like, don't mess with us. Well, they haven't like done a full invasion or anything. But it's getting pretty crazy over there, like... There's a real possibility of tensions increasing before the election, right? Not just tickling them as a threat. Yeah, but what I mean is they're not invading. They're not like troops on the ground. It's just they're sending rockets, and it's definitely like escalated and all of that. But I thought that maybe there was going to be an invasion of Lebanon. And it kind of, honestly, Israel is just like, look, we can destroy all of your military capabilities. Like, here's maybe just like not mess with us. But it doesn't seem like Israel is ready to escalate this into a full-blown conflict yet. It's still limited strikes, even though those strikes are really harming Hezbollah's ability to operate. I don't want to downplay like the impact that those strikes are having on Hezbollah's ability to operate. They have absolutely gutted that operation in a very short time in a way that I don't think the world thought was possible. So Israel isn't going to invade anywhere. They want Gaza and the displacement of the people there so they can settle it. I don't think that they really actually want to settle Gaza so much as that they just don't want those people there. Like, I shouldn't laugh. It's not funny. But seriously, Gaza is a real problem for them. That land is not really worth much, right? It's desert. It's okay. Some of the areas north and some of like the East Bank, there's, I can see why people would want that land. Okay, but Gaza is a hellhole. They don't want the land to quote unquote settle it, although I think they probably would if they got it. No, they just don't want the Gazans there anymore because they cause them so much trouble. And if they could work out some deal where everybody in Gaza moved to Egypt or Jordan, of course nobody would take them, but if they were able to negotiate some sort of a deal like that, Israel would take it in a heartbeat, simply because the terrorism that comes out of that tiny little plot of land is such a thorn in their side. You don't level cities because you have no future plan. I don't think that they leveled it because no, I don't think so, because almost certainly what's going to happen is Israel's going to come back and build it back up for them. Well, like seriously, the chances of Israel being able to annex Gaza are practically nil. Practically nil. No, what's going to happen is all of the people are going to move back and Israel is going to construct for them. And the world's going to dump a ton of money in there and they're going to build it back up. And probably you'll continue to see terrorism there and continue to have problems. So really, I really don't think it's naive. I think it's naive to think that Israel is somehow going to annex Gaza. Like, come on. How would that happen? How would they do that? The world's not going to let them do that. Like, if Israel just one day decided, you know what, guys, we're sick of this. We're annexing Gaza. We're going to, and displace everybody that's there. Although maybe they don't displace everybody that's there. Maybe they say they're all there, but we're annexing it. I think that all of, like right now, Egypt's not involved. Jordan's not involved. Saudi Arabia's not involved. Okay. If they did that, those countries who would get involved, they would be a problem. Now, I think that Gaza could be, what is the word, occupied. I think that what's most likely to happen is you go back to what the situation was before. Let's see here. When was it? When did all that happen? I want to say 2013. Was 2013 when Israel pulled out of Gaza, stopped occupying Gaza, and then like a year later was when the people in Gaza elected Hamas. Right. Gaza was already what do you mean by leveraged? Like, look. Let's say that I'm Netanyahu, and I'm not saying that this is what Netanyahu is like, but rather I'm going to paint a caricature of Netanyahu that is kind of like the as you know his biggest detractors say, that he really truly is some sort of a fascist dictator that just wants to conquer everything, and he wants to take over Gaza so that he can settle it and things like that. Okay. Just think about how nonsensical of a strategy that actually is. Like, you're going to come in, you're going to ruin your good will with the entire world, and come in and settle, displacing millions of people. And for what? For a shithole in the middle of the desert that literally only exists because these people had nowhere else to go. This idea that like there's something there in Gaza that's worthwhile for them strategically to bother doing something like that is laughable. Like, y'all, here's the thing. I don't think y'all understand. Okay? You don't live in a desert. I live in a desert, okay? I live in a desert. There are certain things. Yeah, there can be things in deserts that can be worthwhile, but okay, listen. Here's this area, okay? This whole thing right here. There's nothing there. You know why? Because it's a fucking desert. Like, nothing wants to live there. They're right there on that teeny tiny little corner because that was like the closest to civilization they could get, right? The people of Gaza could go, and I don't know, Egypt would probably be unhappy, but at some point in the past, it probably would have been feasible for them to have gone and settle anywhere within this peninsula. You know why they didn't? Because it's an unlivable hellhole. The only reason they're able to survive where it is now is because of Israel, A, and B, because they're next to the Mediterranean. Okay? Like, Gaza is not there like, oh, there's this area and it's so valuable to us, so let's go and live there and make that place our last stand. No. It was like the only place they could go. Nobody wanted to go there. So that's what I'm saying. Like, when you get up into here, so my understanding is that Lebanon is actually pretty nice. My understanding is there's nice areas in Lebanon. It's not like straight up desert. It's more like California, So you start when you get like down here, it's desert, right? Once you start to get up into Lebanon and Cyprus, it's like tropical paradise. My understanding. Okay, so like there are some areas over here in the West Bank and all of that where, yeah, I think Israeli settlers want that land. Although maybe it's more so just to displace the people and not necessarily because they think it's valuable. But the West Bank, man, nah, it's a hellhole. Like, why would you put all of that into it to have that? It's really not. Why do we send food to people in the desert? Why don't we move the people to where the food is? Yes. It is. Well, listen, man. When you come over here into the United States, I mean, it's a little bit of a different story because the desert here in the United States is not as quite like what the desert is over there, okay? Here in Utah, we got the mountains next to us, okay? The truth of it probably is that, number one, if it wasn't for the Mormons coming in and settling in Salt Lake City, I don't know if this place would really actually exist. But the one thing that kind of keeps us going in Salt Lake is that we're the crossroads of the West, right? Denver is kind of like a gateway, and then everything in the Intermountain West, so everything in like this whole area kind of has to come, comes into Salt Lake City. Actually, so here's I-15, goes like that, and then you've got I-80, and then you've got, I forget how you get into Arizona. How do you get into Arizona? Yeah, there's a road that goes like this, and there's a road that goes like this. Yeah. Anyways, so like if you're trying to transport stuff from the western United States to the eastern United States, there's a good chance you're going to come through Salt Lake City. That's what keeps us here. Otherwise, it's a weird place to live, guys. The thing about Salt Lake City is it's not just a desert. It's a high altitude desert. So we're up there in altitude too. So you get like this double whammy. I think some people like, oh, wouldn't it be great to have sun all the time, and let's just go out and sunbathe, and you must be lowland dwellers, because out here you don't just go out and decide to lay out in the sun all day. No. That's how you get skin cancer. You will be burned. It almost doesn't matter how much sunscreen you put on if you decide to go out and just lay on your back for an hour to get suntanned. Probably not going to work very well. Probably going to get sunburn. It's a desert. Oh, actually. So the way you're thinking here about this is interesting, but I really don't think that Israel's intention is to settle the West Bank, settle Gaza. I don't think so. Like if they made some deal, and everybody in Gaza left and went and settled in the Sinai, for instance, like I was talking about. Although you would never do that, but, So, or maybe they go to Jordan, or maybe they go to Egypt or something like that. Places where the other countries don't really want them, but like somehow they work something out, okay? And now Gaza is empty, and Israel is allowed to annex Gaza. I'm not convinced that they would go and start building stuff there in Gaza. I think that they would probably just leave it abandoned. I don't think anybody wants to mess with the infrastructure nightmare that Gaza's going to be after this. But again, what's probably going to happen is that they probably at some point make some sort of a deal, and Israel ends up basically rebuilding Gaza for the Gazans. And it's going to be a crazy, crazy infrastructure project that the whole world ends up being involved in. Maybe at some point we have peace in Gaza and we can all go and sit and sip drinks on the side of the Mediterranean in Gaza. Except for my understanding is that you probably wouldn't do that because the shores of Gaza aren't particularly very calm, right? Because remember, there's that whole thing about Obama or Biden tried to make a humanitarian dock there, and basically it got destroyed by the ocean. Yeah, it's not. Maybe this is short. You know, if they decide to go for shorts today, like, or you come on a larger chart, you know, they decide to go short, could see it getting ugly short term. At the moment, though, I'm a little bit unsure what the driver for really, you know, strong order short. Like, even I kind of like Octavius's trade here, but I'm thinking that I would have to be careful about, well, like 16 would be a good place to take profits, for instance. I don't know if that's something that's going to turn into a trend day down sort of a thing. You know what I mean? Yeah, another note I feel like people say all the time, but doesn't kind of stick in, is no other country wants the people of Gaza for any reason. I wonder why. Yeah, let me put it this way. Long term, if our goal is to have peace in Gaza, specifically, there's only two ways that this happens. One, the people of Gaza put all of their arms down and stop gearing their entire culture and society towards the destruction of Israel. Bad chance of that happening. Or B, everybody in Gaza gets killed. It's the only way that you're going to see peace there. I'm not suggesting that anybody should do anything. I'm kind of suggesting that it's a problem that you will never solve, but Harris administration would want them. Yes. Did you remember? I remember when that came out that they were kind of saying like, well, let's, we should take in Gazans. And remember I said, like, that's a trial balloon. I don't think that one's actually going to happen. Yeah, it didn't actually happen, did it? It was a trial balloon. Speaking of Harris, apparently Harris is going to unveil her economic plans this week. Well, really, she's going to re-unveil. So again, this is so interesting in presidential campaign politics, like watching the campaigns. Okay, like here's the thing. Right now, polling is really close. Polling is really, really close. I do not have a whole lot of confidence in the accuracy of the polling right now. Like, come on, guys. We just had the president basically step down like 2-3 months before the election. Then they pick somebody at the Democrat convention that nobody voted for. They just shove the vice president in there. Okay. Then you've got all these other crazy demographic things happening on baby boomers starting to age out of the workforce. Gen Z coming in the last. Well, I mean, Gen Z is smaller than boomers and millennials, but it just gets smaller from there, and that's kind of the last big section of people that we've had. And women becoming a more motivated and pivotal part of the election picture, with single young women in particular voting heavily liberal, Democratic. And which of those groups are going to be motivated to come out and which ones aren't, and how are they going to behave? There's just no way that the polls are going to very accurately predict who's going to come out, what the electorate on election day is going to be. So right now, I would say that the polling was very much in Donald Trump's favor. I would say there's a couple of things last week in particular that really looked favorable to Donald Trump. And it seems like that the internal polling is still like pro-Donald Trump. Okay. The thing that gives me confidence in saying that Trump is probably going to win is because the campaign just seems to be going very, very poorly for Harris. To the point that I was kind of started all this. She's unveiling her economic programs again. That means that it didn't work the first time. So she's looking for a do-over on the economic policies, right? Now, that does not mean, as some people on the right suggest, that she must be down big. It's probably not the case. It's probably the case that their own polling shows the election very, very close, and that the people that are up for grabs are not coming her way, I think is the problem with them, with the Harris campaign right now, is that there's maybe like 11% of the populace in those swing states particular that are like not sure who they're going to vote for, and they are by and large turning towards Trump as they decide, right? So, yeah. Anyways, Harris, she put out the trial balloon, her economic policy, and it got eviscerated. So she's going to try again. Do you think that this time it'll be a little bit more moderate seeming, maybe? Because the case that the liberals are trying to make is like, well, Harris's policy is better. Like, Donald Trump, he's going to put on tariffs, and tariffs are very bad, right? Kind of wish that Donald Trump wasn't going all in on the tariff train. But you know what? Really bothers me is that it seems to me, by and large, that Americans support bad economic policies. Like, I see politicians that should know better, like Harris should know better than to propose price controls, for instance. She should know better, but she does it anyways. That says to me that they're only doing it because they know it's popular. You know? Well, Donald Trump probably is pushing the tariff idea because among that group of people in the Rust Belt that they're trying to capture, it probably is very popular with them. Americans support policies that give them free stuff by far. It is a thing. They're only whining now because the free stuff is going to illegal immigrants. Well, like, so again, the thing here is that with immigration, all of the data that we have suggests that immigration is a boon for the economy, right? Like, just look at the stock market under Joe Biden's term, right? You might personally not benefit from immigration, but the stock market's been trucking along quite nicely despite everybody underneath of it just going nowhere, right? At what point do you sit down and you say, okay, like, this is harmful to enough people that we shouldn't do it? You know, this is a thing that I think is being unsaid. Is like, okay, like, cheap labor is good for businesses, but it's not good for the people that are competing for that labor, or competing with that labor, let's say. Oh, yeah. Now, I'll never forget COVID check day and the first check everyone got, and how the following day, nearly every house in the neighborhood had a new TV box at the curb. pretty surreal. Yeah. I remember going to Walmart around that time, and you know how Walmart, this kind of like, there's this, here's the Walmart, and you've kind of got this section over here that is like, all of the kind of the like houseware stuff. People don't tend to go over there. And then you've got the clothes is divided down the middle, and then you got the food over here, right? And they had TVs all along here, all the way around the store in a giant circle. Televisions at that time, and they aren't there anymore. They sold them all. Yeah, my COVID money is still in equities. Mine too. You haven't bought a TV since 2011? So I recently got a new TV, and I got an OLED TV. Do you want to hear about TVs? I thought this is actually more interesting than I thought it would be. There's two main competing technologies right now. I mean, it used to be LCD, but they've got OLED and you've got QLED. Now, you would think that QLED is like more special or something, but it's actually not. It's actually the worst technology. QLED is basically like it's an LCD screen, except for that they've got black dots behind it to improve the contrast. But you have to, like with an LCD screen, you've got liquid crystal on the front, and then you've got backlight in the back. And then they have the backlight like segmented down because that's brighter. So QLED is brighter, but like if there's a white text on the screen, you'll see a white halo around it, for instance, right? So there's problems with the contrast. And that's the problems with LCD. Okay. OLED, on the other hand, is like the screen in your phone. The screens in your phone are OLEDs. And it's just gotten to the point where the OLED technology has advanced to the point where they can make 95 100-inch televisions now. Is like the most recent run of things that's come out. There's 94-inch televisions, which, by the way, just look enormous, but I digress. Okay, so you kind of think about it, and you're like, oh, okay, but like all TVs are pretty nice right now with the resolution and all of that. No. The OLED, the contrast on the OLED is a killer feature. Okay, go get an OLED television and then go on YouTube and watch like a really psychedelic video, like something with lots of flashes and stuff like that. On an OLED television, it's amazing because, again, you can have super, super bright, almost blinding white next to pitch black. And it's trippy, frankly. It's trippy. And you would you'll be mesmerized. You just got to get something that's like bright flashing lights and stuff. Killer feature. So I think that if you have an older television, an upgrade to an OLED is a pretty good deal. Especially if you get a deal on them, like the last generation of OLEDs are really good. Like this generation has only been like a small improvement over the last generation, so you can get the last generation for really good prices. The COVID check is what got me my orange Suburban. It helped a lot. My only vehicle now. It's helped me a lot. I think that I actually used it responsibly. That's good. Well, if you don't use the TV very much, this is totally understand. QLED from Samsung is a lie. They took the name QLED for no reason at all. Definitely not because OLED is the absolute best. Yeah, QLED is nowhere near OLED. Yeah, I agree. Now the thing is that like Samsung is like, oh, OLED is better, and everybody's figured that out. So now they're going into the OLED space. But the Samsung OLEDs are better. Samsung OLEDs are better. There's a noticeable improvement in quality with the Samsung OLEDs. Like the new Samsung OLED came out this year, you put that next to like this year's LG or last year's LG, the Samsung is noticeably better. The LG, they kind of like, they amp all of the colors up to make it like the same intensity, same brightness, but the Samsung is able to be that bright with full detail and not washed out colors. Anyways, but you probably don't want to spend $10,000 on a TV, so most people won't get that one. It's called global dimming, but they don't have global dimming on their OLEDs. I mean, when it comes to an OLED TV, you're getting either an LG or a Samsung. So, and the one that I got is an LG. It's okay. Well, it's not just okay, it's great. But it's, you know, I got it on the cheap because it was last year's model. It was the display model, in fact. It's kind of weird to think about it. Like, Samsung makes a little bit of everything. Because you can get so I was looking at fridges. We decided not to get one. We kind of need to get one because my fridge keeps like peeing on the floor. It's like it defrosts and water comes out, and there's supposed to be a drain at the bottom, but like instead there's a giant ice sheet or something. Yep. They make washers, dryers, fridges. So like when I was looking at fridges, like the coolest fridge, in my opinion, was the Samsung fridge. Now I understand that the Samsung fridges have some problems because I've seen a lot of videos of people like picking at their ice maker, their Samsung ice maker, and pulling sheets of ice out, stuff like that. But they have some innovations and things about the way that their fridge is organized and everything that are kind of cool. Their washing machines suck. I don't think that mine is a Samsung. What is mine? I don't remember what kind of washer it was. I probably spent too much on my washer. I don't know. It was like, I have the money. Hopefully I buy this now. I'll never have to deal with it again. We'll see how that works out. It pisses me off that like the machines, they only last 7 years. And they're all designed to last 7 years, and so they all end up breaking at the same time. So then you end up a whole year not being able to save up nearly as much as you'd like because you're replacing appliances. If I had your fridge, well, so the thing is that we did have it repaired. It keeps happening. I need to go and break the ice up at the bottom and pull it out. But like before, it was like they replaced the door and everything. But I think there's something else wrong with it. Maybe we do need to just call the service person again. Maybe my wife really just wants a new fridge. You know what I want? I want a new house, to be honest with you. I would like a house where I can, you know, like I could have like a super ginormous fridge built into it. I don't think it's a drain pump. I don't. It's like the freezer will defrost itself and the water just goes to the bottom, and there's not like anywhere for it to come out. Like I would think that there should be like a hole at the bottom, but there's not. And so once that fills and ice is over, then the next time that happens, the water just drips out onto the floor. My fridge I pulled out of an abandoned home that was nearly rotting to the ground, and it was really old, but it works. Oh yeah. I've seen some things about older fridges that are kind of like, what? what? Like everything in there is made out of chrome and yeah. Why does it defrost? Well, so so that you don't get like the ice on the side of the wall. So I don't think that it's like completely defrosting it, because then the things wouldn't be frozen, right? But like it does something. So the truth is that I wasn't there when the service guy came along last time, and so I don't really remember all the details. Is the truth. So I'm trying to give an explanation of like the symptoms. Modern fridges have I don't think that mine has a heating coil in the rubber seal around the doorway. One of the problems is that as it ices up, it becomes difficult to close that door. Well, if it does, it's not something that's ever been mentioned or when we were servicing it. There you go. Your freezer defrosts to remove the first layers of ice on the evaporator because the ice on the evaporator significantly reduces efficiency. The evaporator is the part that makes it cold. Okay, so when that happens, is there supposed to be water at the bottom of my fridge? Where is that water supposed to go? Hey, Paul, you know too much about fridges. Yeah, I shouldn't be having that at all. I know I'm not the only person that has these sorts of problems, though, because I've seen videos of people doing like similar stuff, having similar kind of problems. Like the one that I saw is that they'll have a similar sort of a problem in like their tray in the top. So like for some reason that tray starts to malfunction and gets too cold, and then they'll be able to pull a sheet of ice out of that tray. It's like, what? And it's the same thing, but except for that I can't really just pull it out. I have to go and take a hammer and break it up and pull it out in chunks, because it sticks to it. Last week the headphones were starting to feel good and cushy, but today they feel heavy on top of my head. It again makes me feel like, let's just downgrade to something else. To get the kind of performance in a headphone that I would really like, you probably need an open back headphone. Probably should just go to cheap closed back ones just for monitoring and conferencing. And if I really want to listen to good music, I listen on the monitors. Sorry, that was like a huge ADHD skip there, but of course, going from talking about the campaign to talking about that is kind of a big skip too. By the way, the debate is next week, right? Yeah, October 1st. I've been thinking like, man, everybody's getting into October stuff. It's still September. Well, yeah, but now it's September 23rd, so like... I went up to the ski resort to pick up my pass, and they were having an Oktoberfest. Apparently they do it every weekend, and I was shocked at the number of people that were there. Like, it's Utah, it's a Sunday, they do this every weekend. Parking lot was packed. Okay, Abel, I thought of something. If you're consistently fighting some water in your freezer, small chance it's actually the seal letting. So I think that was like the part of the issue, because the last time that we got it fixed, they were saying, oh, look, there's a problem with the door. And that we ended up replacing the seal and something about the door. But then it's still happening. So maybe the door is, oh, you know what? That probably is it, actually. Is that like the door is maybe not fixable. So over time, there's still enough gets in that is a problem, I think. Maybe that's why my wife is so convinced that it needs to be a new fridge now at this point. Super small little air opening can be disastrous to fridges. Did you see Tim? I did not see that. The last thing that I saw about Tim was him saying we can't handle 4 more years of this. That one is pretty hard to... You would say we can't handle another 4 years of that. But when you say this, you're talking about what's happening right now, Mr. Walls, which means that you're complaining about Joe Biden and Kamala's economy. So they made fun of him for that. I saw there was this man. I tell you what, Reddit is so freaking weird sometimes. Like the things that Reddit thinks and believes make no sense. There's this subreddit called the Everything Bubble. And I would have thought that in Everything Bubble, that would probably be some sort of libertarian conservative thing. But no, they're hyper liberal. They're hyper liberal about everything. And they're even kind of like talk about the elections like that they're all on the same team and they're all kind of an operative player in the elections in some way. Like, we're winning. We're doing this. This is good for us. It makes no sense. So in the debate subreddit or a Change My Mind subreddit, there was this person arguing that Tim Walz was going to destroy JD Vance. And I was like, I think that's a ridiculous prediction. Like, I don't think that one is going to destroy the other. That's one of the first things, is that everybody treats it like, oh, if one side wins, it's going to be absolutely devastating. Well, okay. Look at how things have shifted since the last debate. Was it the end-all be-all of everything? No, it was not. Okay, but I think that the best indication that you're going to get as to how these two guys are going to debate is how they perform out on the stage right now. Tim Walz doesn't get interviewed. He does campaign speeches, and he keeps screwing up at his campaign speeches. Okay. Meanwhile, JD Vance is out getting interviewed and doing, full combat with the media every day. And conservatives are quite happy with how he's performing in those. Like they're reposting videos of it and pushing it out there and really singing his praises. I think there's some problems with, like maybe JD Vance wasn't the best pick. I'm sure there's a lot of Republicans that are, wish that they had picked somebody else. But in that particular role, he's been doing really, really well. And so I think that JD Vance has a big advantage over Walz in that respect. But like Reddit doesn't see it that way. And I'm just like, man, are you not like paying attention? You're not like paying attention. I kind of, again, it brings me back to this thing that like, sometimes I wonder, are the people that I'm arguing with robots, or are the people that I'm arguing with children? Because some of the things that they say are just so stupid. This is another one that came up was, who is responsible for the weak economy that we have right now? And the Democrats want to say, well, we inherited a weak economy tattered by COVID from Donald Trump because of Donald Trump. Okay, number one, the economic weakness that came from COVID wasn't because of Donald Trump. Okay, it happened to every country, and it would have happened regardless of who you had in charge. In fact, might have been worse if there was a Democrat in charge, because they would have made more severe lockdowns. Okay. I can tell you straight up, Republican areas recovered faster than Democrat areas did, because the Democrat areas, they kept locked down for longer. But by the time that Donald Trump was out of office, he left a roaring stock market. Like, none of y'all was complaining in 2001 on Reddit. Nobody on Reddit was complaining about how the economy was weak and this is... No, you were all going mad buying stocks and spending money like on everything in sight. It was insane. And I remember getting here on this stream and talking about it almost every day. Like, dude, these people are going crazy. Like, there is no way we are going to get inflation. And sure enough, we did, right? And they want to blame it on Trump. It's just like the most ridiculous thing. It was like, no, like, it was good when Trump left, and then you had 2 years of Biden, and it resulted in inflation. And I'm sitting here like reading the things that people are saying. I'm like, well, the economic impact from COVID was mostly in March, right? Like, obviously there was COVID for a long time after that, like a year and a half, where people were talking about it all the time, at least. But the stock market bottomed in March. That people are arguing with me about this. I'm like, were you not there? Like, we're only talking like 4 years ago. You don't remember already? Unless you're a child. Unless you were like in junior high at the time. It's the only explanation I have for some of the things that I hear people say to me on Reddit. It's just like, nobody's paying attention. Nobody remembers this stuff. It's so wild. It's so wild. Like, I get this all the time. They weren't paying attention, and so now they're looking back after the fact and trying to find stuff that supports their recollection of things. When at the time, it was no question amongst anybody, the market and political watchers, about what was happening. Well, anyways, the vice president debate is next Tuesday. And over the weekend, Kamala Harris challenged Donald Trump to another debate. And now they're saying that Donald Trump is a chicken because he didn't do the debate. And I really don't think that that's going to work. I think that the more that Kamala Harris tries to push and talk about it, the more silly it's going to make her look. Because there was another debate. And you declined it. So now you get to pick the venue and all of the rules, and he's supposed to just accept it? Get real. Seriously. Especially after the way that, you know, the network literally conspired against him at the last debate. Like, you think he's going to do another one? Come on. Like, talking about the debate, like talking about Trump not doing another debate will just get people to talk about that the last debate was rigged. That's going to help Trump, not hurt him. That end is going to make you look desperate, because, like, you wouldn't really be asking for a debate unless you needed a boost. I'm still thinking about the headphones, so it's probably the case that headphones like this are just too heavy. Like, I don't like, the ear cups aren't pressuring me anymore. They feel pretty comfortable. It's just that all of the weight is going into this one little area of my head about that big. It hurts. My weekend was okay. What do you have your opening range set to? Yeah, it's a new headset. So my old headset, I have it right here, kind of broke. Let me show you. So these are Pioneer HRM. Oh, I don't want to pull out the cables. Oh well. Pioneer HRM 5s. So they're supposed to be like your Pioneer headphones, but kind of geared like with tuned more for producing. And they have these little ports. I don't know if you can see them there. These little ports right there for bass response. So you can get really heavy, punchy bass out of these. I quite liked it. Some people didn't like it. They said, oh, it's too much. But I'm kind of like, well, you probably think it's too much because you're used to headphones that don't have very good bass response, especially in a closed back headphone, right? So this is the big issue is that, is the headphone completely enclosed around your ear, or is there like, you know, other open back headphones, this part right here will just be like a grill so that the air can come out. And that means that the sound will spill out into the environment. So for streaming and so forth, need to have a closed back headphone. Otherwise, they would get feedback going back into the microphone, right? So I wanted to get something that was a little bit more strict because I liked the sound response of these, but they broke. This spot up here, it's this side, is just completely destroyed, just completely broken. Can I even get it to go back in now that I pulled it out like that? And I don't know if you can really see, that's like the plastic there is just completely broken. So like these headphones, but then the other thing was that the cable came undone. So that was the first thing, was that I could only hear out of one side. So I went and I got another pair of headphones, and that pair of headphones I'm returning because they were too tight. They would actually touch the ear, and I didn't like that. So I switched and I got these because these were like, okay, this is a little bit of a step up, but these are like the best sound, like best bass in a closed back headphone, and really durable. Like this is aluminum. It's really sturdy, and I can replace the ear cups and the headband. So I shouldn't have these issues where I have to buy a completely new headphone again. You listen to your voice and this music in your headphone, yes. I find that hearing myself speak helps me speak so much. Like, it's just, man, hearing yourself speak, it really improves your speaking. It really does. So I like it. Most people don't like the sound of themselves at first, but after you've been doing it every day for years, you'll enjoy it. Like all this stuff on my hands, because that was the other thing, is that this material is just like, you see it's all coming off. Yeah, you can see that in the camera really well. It's just, it wasn't a very durable headphone. Like from a Pioneer headphone, that was really disappointing that they were not very durable. So I was trying to get a more durable headphone. Yeah, I got my use out of them. I don't think they lasted as long as I wanted, but I think I still got multiple years out of them. So anyways, these headphones, the problem is, first of all, the way that it works is that the top here is like a metal spring that kind of, clamps down. So if I take it off of my head, you can see the headphones turn, and then to put them on my heads, I have to pull them apart to put them on, right? So there's like this constant clamping pressure on your head. that was too much at first. So I took it and just kind of like, oh no. Okay, so my camera just went off because the power went out. We get about 15 minutes of use out of these. So too bad that my other UPS didn't work, because the other UPS was like really, really big. But since I've got it split now between two UPSs, we should be able to last for a while. So yeah, I don't know if you can hear the beep. No, I know. That'd be bad. It's kind of a weird time for the power to go out. Anyways, I was talking about the headphones. The other issue is that they're heavy. And so the headband is like pushing into my skull. And like at the end of the day, there's like this big dent in the top of my head. So I ordered this like strap, comfort strap, so that strap should distribute the weight more evenly across my head. We'll see if that works. If that doesn't work, I think I'm returning these two. If that doesn't work, I think I'm returning these two, and I'm just going to get like cheap Sonys or something. 5 minutes to the PMI. Yes, that's right. Well, I'm going to go take a look outside and see if I can look out across the valley and see who has lights. Okay. See how widespread it is. Take a picture. For why? Oh, the problem you know what? So I'm probably putting things on the stream all the time that probably make my location too obvious. But if I'm afraid that if I showed you a picture, you'd know exactly where I live. But my view isn't that good. Like I am up high enough that I can get a view of at least my part of the valley, but there's houses in front of it, so it's kind of hard to see it. Yeah, I already know where you live because there you go. One of the things that happened was when I was streaming on one time, it was showing like Slack notifications and stuff like that. That's big no, right? I don't want the names of people at my company. Oh, we took care of it. Both so you can't see that information, and so that it will never happen again. I'm super paranoid about that stuff, but then at the same time, there's kind of like this understanding that like, yeah, but People know who I am anyways. There's no escaping from it. If, I tell you what, if I became like famous somehow, like all of a sudden I was a big millionaire YouTuber or whatever, probably would have to move to a place in like higher security, I think. Oh yeah, you can DM it from me? Well, I don't know. Do I? Well, it's kind of too late now. I was thinking, like, do I have any pictures on my phone right now that I can send you? Because I don't want to go back out there and take... By the way, it's hot in here compared to outside. It is hot in here compared to outside the room, so it's getting warm in here. Dude, I tell you what, it's so funny. Like when I go through my camera roll, so many of the pictures are just like taking a picture of something so that I can remember later. Like if I go to the hardware store, which size do I need and that sort of a thing. This is most of the pictures on my camera roll. Yeah, I don't really have a picture like that, unfortunately. Most of the pictures on my phone are dogs. Oh man, when I was up at the ski resort at the end, you know, it was a Oktoberfest. There were so many dogs. Good looking dogs too. It's I guess one of the things that's kind of become like getting thrown in my face all the time now is the wealth signaling and so forth around skiing. Oh man, so now that this has happened, we're moving down here. You know what? All of that, I totally forgot about the news. Services PMI 55 spot 4 for Flash, and manufacturing 47 versus 48 spot 6. So, you know, services slightly higher than expected, manufacturing slightly lower than expected, but they decided that was a good reason to really sell the treasuries hard here. That's interesting. Well, that 16 was kind of like only just a little skip away, so that seems like a stronger reaction than I was expecting, though, based on those numbers. How are you doing? Well, we lost our powers, so I guess I'm doing not very good. I'm gonna take the cam off, so you don't have to see that. Yeah, the image is stuck because the camera is not connected to the UPS. My older brother lives in Salt Lake. Wonder how. Oh, I don't know. Well, I live in north of Salt Lake. I live in Davis County. So, like, anyways, I was talking about the wealth signaling around skiing. So, like, I snowboard.
So focusing on the report now, looking at the employment and
there's not anything particularly special about snowboarding for me, other than that's what I learned when I was a kid. So that's what we did.
the overall decline was very
but let me tell you what, man.
job losses.
So I went to a ski swap on Saturday, and there were so many skis there, and only like a dozen snowboards, and none of them were like really fit for me. So many more skis than snowboards, and the prices for skis, some of the prices they were asking for skis were obscene. Like they were asking $400 for little toddler skis. Man, but it was kind of up in the Olympus area. Like this, it's a high school that has a view of the whole valley. Like it's a rich area, right? So what is it? The rich people tend to ski. The rich people tend to ski, and the snowboarders are poor, and so their stuff is cheaper. And people spend a lot of money on skiing. If you live in Utah, you can do it on the cheap. Like you get secondhand gear and all that sort of stuff, and you know, a middle class person can ski if that's the most important thing to them. but it's really, really, it used to be in Utah, everybody skied. And it's turned into a rich person hobby. Works for Hillcrest Bank. Okay. I'm not too familiar with them. I've heard the name before, but I'm not too familiar with them. If there was somebody working for a bank, I would expect it to be Zion's. No, I don't smoke weed. No. Never. I don't smoke weed. I don't drink alcohol. I don't drink caffeine. I'm super... the most, what would you say? I don't know what the word is for. Anyways, I'm so square he accepts debt cards. Debit cards. Yeah, sure. I'm super square. That's totally it, yes. It's good for your health though. You know what? I tell you what. I kind of think because I've got my health problems. I think some of my health problems are related to ADHD.